Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So I'm an artist and art teacher, and so today I want to show you my full process, spending 3 hours painting this famous Vincent van Gogh's painting from 1889. And yes, I really enjoyed looking at the clouds containing air turbulence in the sky with beautiful tones of blue violet and this teal, light teal color in between the clouds. I also love seeing the movement of wind depicted in these brush marks of the wheat field as well as these foliage. I also like how he abstracted the shapes of the mountains far away. So overall, this is like a beautifully composed painting with vibrant colors and lively brush marks. Very classical Vincent van Gogh style. So in this video, I'm gonna spend about 15 minutes to show you my whole 3-hour painting process, painting this. The size of the canvas is 11 inches by 14 inches. So I painted an underpainting using burnt umber from Artist Loft. And now I'm ready to use a white pencil crayon to do the layout for this painting. So the sky is taking a very big ratio in this painting, which is a really great composition. If you want to show like a dynamic sky full of lovely clouds of movement, then make sure you have a higher ratio of sky in your painting and push everything below the horizon lower on your composition. So there are a lot we can learn about composition, use of colors from famous artists' works. Let's start to get the top of the wheat field in. Now I'm tracing out the contour outline of the mountains, in lovely curves, and then the shapes of the cypresses on the right hand side. This one is the tallest. Now I'm drawing these bushes on the left and roughly lay out the overlapping clouds in the sky area. Again, beautiful curves showing movement. So I want to start painting the sky area first, which is quite monochromatic. So I've got 4 colors from Liquitex. So the first color that I just put down in my palette is this bright aqua green that I see for the gaps between the clouds in Vincent van Gogh's sky. And then a very dominant color that I see shading the clouds is this light blue violet. So I'm gonna squeeze some light blue violet. I think I need quite a bit. I also need this Cerulean Blue Hue. I think I'm also gonna mix this aqua green with cerulean blue and white. So it's fun to mix colors around for more variations. So this is the titanium white. So white is usually the first color that runs out in a set of acrylic paints. So I'm starting out with light blue violet, mixing a little bit of cerulean blue hue into it, and also a little bit of white for some lighter tints. So just sticking to these 3 colors for now. And I'm really enjoying making these curving brush marks to show the air turbulence, the emotions Vincent van Gogh is trying to express. And I encourage you to use quite a bit of white because there are actually a lot of very light tints of blue violet. And I also like to paint the sides of the canvas. Now I'm starting to use bright aqua green to paint the gaps of sky areas in between the clouds. I'm also mixing white into bright aqua green for even lighter tints. So every couple brush marks is kind of a slight different color definition of light, aqua green. And I think it must be a very windy day when Vincent van Gogh painted this. So now, to show the sun illuminated clouds, I want to blend in primary yellow with a lot of white. So if you zoom in on the reference photo of Vincent van Gogh's painting, you can see, yeah, bits of yellow here and there on the clouds. So a lot of seemingly white areas in the painting may not be absolutely white. It could be like 90% white with 10% yellow, or white with 10% blue or violet, something like that. So now I'm playing with like 90 to 95% of white, 10 to 5% of primary yellow. Grabbing some leftover light blue violet to blend on top of the white clouds, and adding some more blue violet on top of the slightly overpainted white cloud areas. Also adding some retouches of even lighter aqua green. So in the next 1 minute of this video is all about adding more white on these clouds, and also playing tug of war of blue violet with the white areas. So I don't see any tight outlines or boundaries dividing the gaps of sky and the clouds. Everything is merged together pretty smoothly. It's easy to get lost in all these swirling brushstrokes, but I kept reminding myself not to copy the painting perfectly, but to channel the feeling of movement, rhythm, showing the sense of wind. And I'm still playing with these 5 colors as mentioned before. With just 5 colors and different ratios, combinations, you're able to create so many levels of tints and contrast with the help of white. So that's the look of the sky area finished. This part took the longest compared to the rest of the painting. Now, this is like another session. Now I'm ready to tackle the next part of the painting, which is the mountains, the cypress trees, the bushes, and the golden wheat field. Just recharging my palette with those previous colors mentioned. Okay, now starting to paint the foliage, we'll need green and the yellow ochre. So I'm going to use this Hooker's Green Hue, permanent. And I'm going to mix more or less yellow ochre into the Hooker's Green Hue to get like a variety of different greens. And I also want to use a bit of Ultramarine Blue to shade the cypress trees. So I'm going to block in the rough shapes of the mountain ranges by playing with Cerulean Blue Hue, light blue violet, and also a bit of white. And now I'm ready to block in the cypress trees using just pure Hooker's Green Hue straight from the tube. So these cypress trees, they're almost like silhouettes, dark green silhouettes. So just making sure the shape is as lively as Vincent van Gogh's, and also the shorter foliage shapes. Now I just mixed a little bit of yellow ochre or yellow oxide into Hooker's Green Hue to get some lighter tones of green for the bushes, yeah, down here close to the wheat field, and also mixing white to get some brighter greens, especially for these two bushes over here on the left. Quite a bit of white. And continuing to play with Hooker's Green, yellow oxide, and white, and also a little bit of leftover light blue violet. Every brush mark is kind of like a different color definition. And moving on to the next part of the painting, finally I'm able to add some warm tones of vibrant yellow, which is just pure yellow oxide mostly, with a little bit of white mixed in there, and also a little bit of leftover Hooker's Green for some slight bit of yellow-green areas. I can also see wheat fields in the distance. And for the highlighting color of the wheat field, I need a lot of primary yellow and white mixed into the primary yellow for the top layer of the wheat field. And starting to use more precise little brush marks to show the movement of the wheat stalks. And for the lower part of the wheat stalks, I'm adding on some short thin brush marks of leftover Hooker's Green. So some areas of the mountain's contour outline is outlined using a whitish blue. Some other parts using like a darker shade of blue. And continuing to use Hooker's Green and also yellow oxide mixed into Hooker's Green to add some wheat stalk and grass blade texture. Now I'm using the mix of white, Hooker's Green, and a little bit yellow ochre to add those highlighted branches on the cypress trees, and also these bushes here on the left. And I'm using the mix of Hooker's Green with a little bit of Ultramarine Blue to blur out those highlighted brush marks on the cypress trees. So they're subtly glowing, not too harsh. And continue to add some smaller brush marks of lighter green tints on these foliage. Now I'm loading my palette with this primary magenta to paint a little bits of wildflowers. I also want to blend in a little bit of burnt sienna to shade the wheat field stalks a bit. So first of all, I want to add a bit more highlights on the top of the wheat field using a very high ratio of white mixed into yellow ochre, and also a little bit of leftover hooker's green mixed into the yellow ochre. I'm also mixing a little bit of burnt sienna to shade the stalks that we can see on the lower part of the wheat field. So I'm trying my best to imitate Vincent van Gogh's lively brush marks, the bending angle of the wheat field, the stalks, and also the top part of the wheat. So the whole wheat field is full of movement, flurrying in the wind. Now I'm adding some pretty important brush marks here for the foreground area using leftover blue violet and light aqua green, and the leftover yellow green, the darker greens. So these brush marks are the reflective colors, as I feel, from the sky and also the surrounding environment. Now I'm repainting the mountains contour outlines and also the colors a little bit because I want the shapes to be more bumpy, more like Vincent van Gogh's. So for the mountains colors, I'm using light blue violet, cerulean blue hue, and white. Now suggesting a distant grass field using hooker's green and yellow ochre or yellow oxide, lots of white. I also added some small dots of whitish yellow green. So keeping the light tone of green on those two cypress trees very subtle. And then, yeah, more obvious, bright, whitish yellow greens for these bushes in the wind. Now adding some final polish, including using the red and also primary yellow to get some wildflowers in on the edge of the wheat field. Some shading and highlights. And that's very much it. So here's the look of my finished painting in the better lighting condition here in my kitchen, nice and bright. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you around in the next video very soon.